What is good, everybody? Welcome to Snap or Pass, where we look at the new cards coming to Marvel Snap, check out their mechanics, counters, some deck lists to give you an idea whether the card is worth picking up or not. And this time around, we're talking about Gladiator, a card that has, I don't know, it's changed in my mind quite a bit. It's changed in the data mines, and it's finally going to be released, and we know quite a bit about this card. I'm excited to share some details with you guys here today. But here's Gladiator, a 3/7 on reveal. Add a card from your opponent's deck to their side of this location. If it has less power, destroy it. So, kind of seems a little bit insane, but some people are comparing this to Yondu or Maximus, and we're going to get into it in just a moment. But of course, we got to talk about the Spotlight Cash week that you can open up here. So we got Loki, Mirage. These are good cards. If anything, I would go ahead and say that Loki might be the best card in the game still, despite his nerf from 3 energy to 4 energy. So if you did not pick up Loki, this might be your week. I think he's going to be in a Spotlight Cash in like many months down the line, so you can maybe wait until then, but he is Series 5 now since Season Pass cards become Series 5 after their release. So it's a pretty worthwhile pickup. Mirage is also a very good constellation prize. She's one of the better 2-drops, just being able to give you really great value and, of course, working with Loki. So it's actually a pretty strong week for the Spotlight Caches if you do not have these cards. But Gladiator himself, is he going to be worth opening up Spotlight Caches? Is he going to be worth the tokens? Because this is a Series 5 card. That means 6,000 tokens. That is not cheap. So let's get into the mechanics of Gladiator. All right, so here are some of the key mechanics when it comes to Gladiator. Now, there are some things that I have asked the devs that I'm kind of awaiting confirmation. I'm sure I'm going to get confirmation soon, but I just not in time for when I was making this video. So I will have an article on CCG Hub. Check it out. I'll have the answers once I receive them in that article, which should be dropping Monday. Now, really quickly, these are the biggest things I want to get out of the way, okay? With Gladiator's effect, right? He is adding the card to your opponent's side of the board. That is a very important keyword that I didn't pick up on when I was first looking and reading and analyzing this card, because I was thinking of it like Yondu, but Yondu doesn't actually play the card, add the card to their side of the board. He just takes it out of the deck and snipes it. Whereas Gladiator, he's adding it there, he's putting it there, which means on reveals will trigger prior to that card being destroyed, even if it has less power than Gladiator. So a very quick example is Black Panther. You would think Gladiator would be able to destroy Black Panther, but that is not the case, because a base stat Black Panther, 4 power, is going to jump to 8 and then have more power than Gladiator and will not get destroyed. Ouch. And then there's, other things that don't really care about surviving, just want the on reveal to proc, like Ironheart or White Tiger, these sorts of things where it's going to be okay to have that roll and lose that card because you got the value out of it anyways. That hurts Gladiator's viability. Not to mention, that also applies for ongoing abilities. So those are going to essentially activate and resolve, then Gladiator can destroy them. So we're talking about cards like Morbius calculating how many cards have been discarding, accumulating that power, then the check of being destroyed or not occurs. Same with Null, seeing how much power has been destroyed this game, consuming it all, then doing the check to see if Gladiator can beat him. And then there's Darkhawk, Devil Dino, all these cards, Ronan the Accuser, even if you want to toss them in there, are going to use their ongoing abilities, then the check will occur. That takes a lot of cards and just, prime targets that you want to destroy and throws them out the window, because they're probably going to have enough power to beat Gladiator 7. Gladiator was originally an 8 power card, and I was really hyped for it because a 3/8 stat line has never been seen in Marvel Snap. That seems amazing. But since the change to 7 power, like, okay, maybe, and now knowing that on reveals and ongoings are going to proc, just get out of town. Like that is such a major weakness. You do not want to be adding a card for free on your opponent's side of the board. Well, you get 7 power, but I just don't think that's going to be worth it. If you roll one of their prime cards, one of their main combo focus cards, so you got to watch out. Now, of course, there could be a level of disruption to that game plan, like you just get a card they had to play in a certain turn order, like Taskmaster or something, and you destroy it. That could be really nice, but I don't know. It's going to end up being kind of a 50-50. Another thing is the destroy package. If you're up against a destroy deck, you got to watch out. If you roll that Wolverine, that X-23, that Deadpool, you're going to help your opponent. because X-23 and Wolverine are just going to get destroyed and stay on the board, just respawning somewhere. And then Deadpool is just going to be like, cool, thanks. I'm going to go to 2 power and go back to the hand. So that is really bad scenario because that is your opponent's game plan and you're helping facilitate it with Gladiator. Gotta watch out for that. Now, some of the things that I'm not sure about that I'm awaiting confirmation. 0. If you pull 0 from the Gladiator effect, is it going to affect, and we have priority, is it going to affect a card played that turn or wait until the following turns to the next card that you play? I'm going to find out soon. Another one is Cosmo. You would think Cosmo stops Gladiator, right? But what if Cosmo is the card pulled from Gladiator? Is he going to stop the mechanic halfway through? Because we know the on reveal of Gladiator is going to pull the card, then the ongoing of Cosmo would resolve, and then we go back to Gladiator. Does he go, oh, I can't, and freeze up and can't destroy Cosmo because the on reveal has stopped? Or is he going to follow through and destroy the dog? We're going to find out. Another one is Goliath. Basically, I'm just putting this here because I want to know, are they both going to destroy each other? Again, Gladiator pulls a card, Goliath triggers, destroys Gladiator, I'm sure, but can Gladiator reach from the grave? If he's destroyed, even if we buff him up and then we pull Shang-Chi or Goliath pops out, anything like this, will he be able to reach from the grave and take the card that he did pull? That would be a big piece of information that I'm going to get you guys. Another one is Hulkbuster. I think the card is actually going to destroy it when Hulkbuster merges. He becomes that card. It's kind of like when you play Hulkbuster at Desto main and there's a card already there, he merges, he's going to then destroy that card. It's going to get destroyed because it's like a played card with Hulkbuster. I imagine Gladiator will still be able to destroy it if it has less power, but I still see that as a counter because adding 5 power to a weak card is probably going to push it over the total of Gladiator's power, so you got to watch out for that. Then the Goblins, they're switching sides, so I just want to see if the check actually occurs, knowing that it's now on your side of the board, if Gladiator will recognize that, that was originally your opponent's card and still destroy it. Time will tell. And lastly, Negasonic is another little interaction that I want to learn because I know she says played, but technically we did play Gladiators, so it's just the timing that I want to see and discover that. So I will keep you guys updated when I learn those little nuances, those little mechanics. A card like this actually has a surprising amount of little interactions. If there's anything that you can think of, let me know in the comments below. I'll try to figure it out. So some of the pros and some of the cons to Gladiator. All right. So the premium stat line. Man, as bummed as I am about this card and the RNG roll that is present, I still can't deny the stat line. And this card was nerfed in the data mines. And historically, those cards tend to release pretty strong. You look at a 3/7, I'm thinking of like Werewolf by Night. You have to, make some work. You got to put in some work to get Werewolf by Night to a 3/7. Not too much, but you got to do a little bit extra steps. Whereas Gladiator, you just hope you get a decent roll and then you got yourself a 3/7. That's just good. Like if Gladiator destroys a weak thing and the on reveal doesn't matter too much, then that's an amazing play. You got 7 power. You destroyed the thing, doesn't even matter. We don't care about what we destroy. It's that Yondu effect. Here's the biggest con, right? Your opponent might not have ever drawn that card, might not have ever played it, might not have ever even seen it in that match. So it doesn't necessarily matter, even if it's a key combo piece to their strategy, because we don't know actually if it would have influenced the game or not. It might help. It might make them retreat because it's, mentally devastating to see that happen, similar to Yondu on turn 1, sniping your primary combo piece. Like you're playing a Cerebro deck and it's just like, see you later, Cerebro. Like, okay, well, that's not very fun. Let me just try the next game. That could happen with Gladiator, but the inverse could also happen. You could play a 3 energy card for 7 power and then pull their death or something like that. And now you've actually spent 3 energy to result in a loss of power on the board. So there's just highs and lows with this card. It's insane. So the stat line is really great, and there can be some game-winning plays, but there can equally be some single-handedly losing plays by Gladiator that just throw the game out the window. So I'm a little bit up and down when it comes to this card. Now we've talked about the mechanics, we understand how Gladiator works, but let's talk about just the base power of cards that are in Marvel Snap. What can Gladiator destroy and what will survive from a base power standpoint alone? Let's check it out. All right, so here is a quick list of essentially just cards that have 7 or more base power in Marvel Snap. Right? Because they're going to perform the check with Gladiator and they will not get destroyed. Because if it's a tie, then the card survives. And if it has more power than Gladiator, of course, it's going to survive. This is a sizable amount of cards. Now, of course, not everyone's playing all these cards unless they're doing some crazy lockjaw cycle deck, right? Where they're just got a lot of high power stuff and some cheap stuff just to do the cycles. Maybe, okay. Usually you're running 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe at most of these cards in your deck, which equates to 1/3 on the high end of the deck being, survivable through a gladiator check, which is pretty good odds when you play it out. And then you can look at, a lot of popular meta decks that do not run high power cards. Loki usually doesn't run a whole lot, except for maybe America Chavez. The bounce decks as well, they run America Chavez, and I would say that's about it. So, Gladiator probably, in most case scenarios, is actually going to pass on the power check. The problem being, the odd time that it doesn't, that's going to suck. That's going to be game losing. And then also the on reveals and the ongoings triggering. Those are the big hindrances. But yeah, there's a lot of cards here, man. And there's a lot that could actually help your opponent as well, not just from a power standpoint, right? Like Odin could come down and smack another on reveal. Destroyer could come out and destroy a whole bunch of things, and that'd be great. But you roll like the Infinite, the Hulk. I don't know. There's so many cards here that you could roll, and it would be terrible. So this is a quick list. Again, just the base power to give you guys an idea of how many cards you got to look out for. You got to read and assess what your opponent is playing and maybe how many cards are left in their deck. Of course, you're not going to know what's in their hand, but based on what they're playing, maybe you can read and assess on what might be in there, what you might roll, and when to play Gladiator. So let's quickly look at some counters, because I think there's some pretty interesting ones. Really, he has a whole lot. I mean, you could almost look at this whole list as counters, but some different ones. Let's check it out. Okay, to start it off, the list we were just looking at, Infinite is essentially holding the place for all those cards. Anything that has more power that can beat the check of Gladiator without any buffs or anything like that, of course, right? Okay, so we're just using him as a placeholder. Other counters, Colossus, my guy Colossus, he's not going down. He's got that ongoing ability. It's going to activate, and he's going to say, no, you cannot destroy me even if I have less power than you, sir Gladiator. I don't care how much power you have, you will not destroy me. I love that. Let's go, Colossus. Another one is Valkyrie, because her on reveal is going to proc, and no matter what the power is of Gladiator, she's going to deduct him down to 3, and they're going to tie, and she will survive. Another one is Deadpool. Deadpool's here for the X-23, the Wolverine, the Sabretooth, all those cards that like to get destroyed and get regenerated. Deadpool is standing here tall for those. I mean, that would just suck. You roll the Deadpool. 1, you know that your opponent didn't draw the Deadpool, and then 2, you destroyed it and gave it back to their hand, so you helped fuel their game plan, and you gave them the core piece to their deck. Devastating. Yeah, you got 7 power on the board, but they are just set up to succeed. And then I have Hulkbuster here. Going back to what I was saying, again, we do not know if the check will be performed on the card that is merged into with Hulkbuster, but I put it here for 2 reasons. 1, if it does not do the check, that is an amazing way to avoid the check of Gladiator, and you just get 5 power for free. It doesn't even clog up a spot. So that's a huge counter. On top of that, all you have to do is merge to a 2 power card for you to pass the check. So I think in almost every scenario, Hulkbuster is going to merge something, and that card will survive, which makes it a pretty good counter against Gladiator. And then we got Darkhawk here. He is standing in for all of those ongoing cards that gain power and can stand tall against Gladiator. Because maybe you've been setting up with your Korg and your Rock Slide, and you're really hoping that you draw that Darkhawk, and you don't, but your opponent plays Gladiator, and then it pops out, and it's got like 12 power. Oh my gosh, that'd be devastating as the Gladiator player. Now, of course, there is Shang-Chi combo with Gladiator, but the power threshold is getting further and further. When we first looked at Gladiator as a 3/8 and Shang-Chi was destroying anything with 9 or more, the two seemed like an inseparable pair. But now Shang-Chi only destroys 10 or more, and Gladiator is 7 or less. So we're getting further away from each other. It's not that reliable of a combo necessarily. It's still not too shabby, but anyways, there's some of the counters if you do not pick up Gladiator and think he's going to be popular, or you want to counter this card. There you go. Let's check out some deck lists. All right, so this is what I got for you guys here in the deck list department. Some key synergies with Silver Surfer, because it's a 3-drop. You go to 3/9. We dodge Shang-Chi. Great. Looks great. Shuri. amazing, right? You double the power, you go to 14, then the on reveal procs, and your check is, that much more guaranteed to succeed. 0, if we don't even want to do the check, destroy anything, just get that out of the way. We just play 0. Not too shabby because it's a high statted card. It's pretty good. Same with Cosmo. Don't want to do the on reveal? Play the card behind Cosmo. Pretty good. And Shang-Chi, like I was saying, you can destroy anything with 10 or more power. A little bit of a gap, but should be okay. Now, one thing I want to get out of the way as well is the comparison to Maximus. And one of the biggest downsides to Gladiator compared to Maximus, let's say in a Silver Surfer list, is that if you do not play Gladiator into a full lane, I actually think that's the best way to play this card, into a full lane, so you don't have to actually do the proc. Regardless, on turn 6, Gladiator has the risk of pulling a card for your opponent that they would have never played because it's literally the last turn of the game and you're just giving them power. It's a huge risk you're taking, whereas Maximus lets them draw 2 cards, but on turn 6, you do not care. The game is over. It doesn't matter how many cards they have in their hand. So I actually, when I compare the two, I think I would end up running Maximus almost every time over Gladiator, which is a bit disappointing. And it's one of the leading reasons towards the conclusion of this video, of this snapper pass, which we're going to get to in a moment. Let's talk about the decks. So you got Warrior Falls. Okay, so this is kind of like that Black Panther Odin ramp deck with the Sandman to slow things down, the backup plan of Wong and Doctor Doom, and even throw in Arnim Zola to get some crazy value. Why are we putting Gladiator in here? Because it's got Shuri and even Wong if we want to go nuts with it. And I think it'd be really fun if you could do Wong, Shuri, Gladiator, Arnim Zola. Something like that, right? I think there's still RNG on what it's actually going to hit, but imagine just like completely decimating your opponent's board. Then you can maybe even look at slotting in Null here just because you're going to get a lot of power. And people might be thinking, why are you running, let's go to this deck right here, a destroy deck. Why are you not running Null? It seems so good with Gladiator. Well, it's because you're only destroying something with, less than like 6 or less power, essentially, right? That's what you're destroying. I don't know if I love that. I think the check, just destroying something to discount death, is a little bit better than hoping that you destroyed it something of value, but you could interchange one or the other. But in this list particular, I just really like to play, Silver Surfer and a bunch of on reveals on the last turn, well as a very cheap death, almost 0 costing death if I can. And that's what I find is going to lead me to success and get a W over having just one big card in Null. But you could definitely swap them out. That list, the Destroy Surfer list, was my most successful list for Werewolf by Night. I had, instead of Gladiator, I had Green Goblin. I think Gladiator will actually do a better job in that deck. And I think it's going to be a very successful, very strong deck moving forward. And then lastly, we got Swords and Sandals. I love the name of that one. If you know, you know. But Swords and Sandals here, a junk deck. I actually think Gladiator is a junk card. I know that sounds crazy, right? But really what we want to do is just play the card for its power output. And if the other side of the board is full, we don't have to worry about the ability. We don't have to worry about those rolls. We just get 7 power for 3. That's amazing. So I really like him in a junk deck. Fill it up with the rocks and stuff like that. Sometimes what happens in a junk deck is you do a good job of clogging the opponent's side of the board, but whatever they did manage to play prior to that happening, they have a decent amount of power over you. So that on that turn 5 and 6, you're like, oh shoot, even though I clogged them up, they can't even play anything there. I actually can't get over their current power total at that location. Well, Gladiator's going to be a really nice, cheap option to do so on that final turn or turn 5 or whenever you need to do it. That's pretty nice. And then on top of that, we could do Doctor Octopus on 5 and then Gladiator on 6, which is all right. That's 17 power for us and then 4 cards from them, clogging a location. Maybe there's something there. I thought about also running Cosmo in here just to stop some of these on reveals like Sentry, Doctor Octopus, and Gladiator. So if you can find a way to mix in Cosmo, I think that would be a pretty good spot to do so. But really, we're looking to throw over the Hood. We're looking to throw over the Void, throw over those Goblins, a Rock, whatever we can, junk their deck, give it negative power with the Hazmat combo. Happy days. Pretty fun deck, I think. And of course, when a Nihilist comes out, we're going to be putting him in this deck and shuffling it up just a little bit, but I can't wait for that card. Super hyped. There you go. That's Gladiator. That's some of the decks. But is Gladiator a snap or pass? All right, everybody. Gladiator is a pass, at least for me. There's 2 leading reasons here. 1, This card costs 6,000 tokens or a spotlight cash, which is quite valuable. You can't be just throwing those around. Really, if you're going for the new card, you got to save up 4. So I don't love the idea of doing that for Gladiator, because in a lot of decks, Surfer and stuff like that, I think we end up running Maximus over Gladiator almost every time. And there could be a case, you know, for the destroy aspect, or maybe running both of them in a Surfer list. Definitely not a bad idea. Probably extremely viable and strong because it's just a lot of power output. But I just don't think it's worth the cost to get a card that can just give a little more to existing decks. It's just not very exciting for me. I think I'd rather just have Maximus in there, a bunch of other 3-drops. I already find it's difficult to cut cards in a Surfer list. There's so many great tech options like Juggernaut and stuff like that, that I don't even know if I'd love running Gladiator, because the downside, the RNG rolls, is just a little bit too heavy for me to be consistent, to be reliable. So that's why we got him as a pass. The other reason being, there's just too many exciting cards coming down the pipeline, you know? Like, I'm really hyped for Annihilus, and then there's some fire December cards that I'm pretty excited for. So when I look at a card like this, it's like, do I want to burn the resources on them? And the answer is no, for me personally. But hey, if you want to pick up Gladiator, go for it. Let me know if you plan on doing so in the comments below. Like the video, it helps out the channel immensely, and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. We do this every single new card. I try to get as many details as possible for you guys so you understand the new card coming to Marvel Snap. Let's go. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and I will catch you guys next time.